If you're one of my 357 subscribers who have been following me for a while, then you may or may not be familiar with the fact that I do art on this channel. In fact, a few of my Godzilla pieces have won awards on a statewide level. So when I learned that G-Fest was doing an art contest this year, I was all in. Now, Godzilla people are actually a very creative people, and there is a lot of talent brought to G-Fest. So going into this, I did not think I was going to win. But was I right, or was I wrong? Well, just stick around to find out. But it's not just enough to decide you're going to enter into a contest. You have to decide what you're going to be drawing. Now recently I've been on a kind of an Ultraman kick, so I decided to just roll with it, using designs from my MCU Ultraman series on this channel, if you're interested, as a basis. With that out of the way, let's get started. Now, the first thing I decided to start with is Ultraman Belial, who is also the first character I designed in my MCU Ultraman series. For this design, I actually decided to make a few changes from my original design on this series. For instance, I made Ultraman Belial a bit beefier than in my original design. I also made some of his patterns on the suit a little more complex, and another difference is that I added more animalistic hands to the design. I also forewent the cape, which I added to the original. While I did decide to forego a physical cape, I at first experimented with a cape-like design of fire emanating from his suit. The original idea was that he was emanating so much energy inherited from Rayblood that it was pouring out as flames from the pores of his suit. While I eventually did not decide to go with this, it was one of 3 design pieces inspired by the Kaiser Belial design from Ultraman Zero: The Revenge of Belial. The other 2 being the crack on Ultraman Belial's helmet in this piece. The second is that Ultraman Belial's claws are red, which is a unique design feature of the Kaiser Belial design. As I mentioned before, for the Ultramen, I decided to go with my MCU designs. However, I did add one difference. For these designs, I decided to add a mouth, which I had previously omitted because I wanted their helmets to look more like an astronaut's. But I figured the mouths made the Ultraman design a little more recognizable, and I just thought they looked pretty cool, so I decided to add them back in. Fun fact, this entire project took over 22 hours to complete, and that's not even counting the breaks I had to take in between, making this by far my longest project ever, at least for now. Fun fact, the red alien moon in this piece was inspired by the blood moon from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which resurrects the fallen monsters of the Demon King Ganon. For this piece, while I had previously designed the Ultramen in my MCU series and had a template to go off of, I had never actually redesigned most of these Ultraman monsters, so I had to do most of the designing part from scratch, which certainly added to the length of this project. For Jiris, the simple idea behind this concept was the MonsterVerse Godzilla with a frill on it. Jiris was portrayed by a Godzilla suit, so I thought it would be cool to portray Jiris using the design of a modern Godzilla. I did give him unique dorsal plate to add a little something unique. For Zeton, I decided to lean into his beetle-inspired design by making him as insectile as I possibly could. And as for the general shape of his neck, I was actually inspired by the Ithorians from Star Wars. For Gamora, I wanted to go with a dinosaur aesthetic which matched his origins, giving him T-Rex-like legs and a Triceratops-like head. However, for his arms, I decided to go with something that fit with his burrowing and made them mole-like in appearance. For Gamora, I took a heavy inspiration from moles by giving him a mole-like tail and mole-like front arms, which, like the changes I made to Gamora, fit especially with his burrowing nature. For Naranka, I decided to take a heavy inspiration from the more stocky-built dinosaurs, such as the Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus, giving him a similar foot structure and low to the ground body. I also decided to make his horns look more like antlers. For Red King, I wanted to give the impression of a monster who was something of a bully, being vicious and gluttonous at the same time. I actually took, funnily enough, inspiration from the character the Penguin by giving him especially short legs and a potbelly, as I feel little else as vicious and gluttonous at the same time as the Penguin from DC Comics. I also replaced his puffy coat-like texture with armor plates. And that's how I designed Ultraman, The Last Stand, for the G-Fest Art Competition 2024. Well, I know I left it hanging in the air, but did I win? Well, now that you've seen the entire process and the finished product, no, I didn't win, but I hope you enjoyed this piece anyway. And stick around for a look at how I built my costume, Jugless Juggler from Ultraman Orb, to enter into the G-Fest costume competition, and how I got the helmet signed by Ryota, the actress who portrayed Baragon in Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. And the director of Ultraman X, Zet, Blazar, and Orb himself, the man who created the character that inspired my costume, Kiyotaka Taguchi.